just a fool, a fool in love with you. Earth angel, the one I adore, love you forever and evermore. I'm just a fool, a fool in love with you. I fell for you, and I knew the vision of your love, loveliness. I hoped and I prayed that someday I'll be the vision of your happiness. Oh, oh, earth angel, please be mine, my darling dear. Love you all the time. I'm just a fool, a fool in love with you.
Tell us your name.
Hi, okay. Jose Jimenez. What are you doing? Now I'm upside down.
Don't worry about that. Is your name Sherman, though?
Right. No. Hello. Hi, okay. Where do I have to stand?
Time's up.
You're fine.
Okay. Hi. I'm glad that we can end so many years after our Boy Scout experience. I'm not used to speaking in front of a group, so please forgive my reading from a prepared text. It will also help prevent some senior moments. My wife of 42 years is here with us. Dottie, please stand up. We have two married sons, Brian and Eric, as well as one very cute 8-year-old granddaughter named Rebecca. We lost two other sons to a cruel disease which greatly affected our lives. I practiced engineering for a very short time and then moved on to become a used machinery dealer. My last endeavor was in the surplus aircraft parts business. I also owned two FAA repair stations, as well as a small manufacturing facility in Lake Charles, Louisiana, which made aircraft insulation blankets as well as cargo nets. I had open heart surgery in 1984, which ultimately forced me to retire in 1987. I was really exhausted from the earlier experience of losing two sons and hoped I could get some real pleasure from not dealing with the pressures of daily business decisions. I believe that decision really did help extend my life. I got sick again in 2004 and almost lost my life because of a staph infection. That experience has made me have many introspective thoughts and to reminisce. Maybe too much. I will share some of my thoughts with you. My scouting experience played a very large influence in my life. My first recollection of Troop 299 was in being in the gym of PS 219. I was almost 11 years old. As I recollect, the troop then moved to East 92nd Street in Herb's basement. I remember the Eagle, Panther, Beaver, and Pioneer patrols. At the meetings, we would always discuss some aspect of scouting and have competitions involving knot tying and boxing the compass. We'll try some knot tying soon. We'll see how we do. I can remember the day hikes to Englewood and the overnight camping at Alpine Scout Camp. I particularly remember a day hike to Staten Island and walking up Victory Boulevard, which was led by Lester's father. I remember our leaders, Jack Greenberg, Marty Scheichen, Arnie Bernstein, Mr. Fine, Mr. Porras, Harry Warshawski, Phil Schneider, Sam Freeman, and Phil Levy. Some of us went to 10 Mile River Camp when we were very young. The first time we went to Division 1. There was no room for us, so we were sent to Division 3. See, we didn't have a leader, so they kind of just pushed us around, really. We had to schlep our camp trunks the whole way. We really must have been quite a sight, but finally we were ensconced in our tent, which was to be our home for 2 weeks. I remember taking the canoe swimming test with Jay, but we passed the test anyway. We went back for another summer and did a survival hike. It was hard, but fun nevertheless. We then moved on to Todd's basement after we formed our Explorer post. Remember our black jackets with $2.99 and purple on the back? We had many parties and other activities. There were so many fun things and learning experiences that I could go on for hours. Should I go on for hours? I can do that. But in the interest of keeping everybody awake, I will not. The last formal contact that I had with the troop was as a committee man in 1962 and 1963, and I'll pass around the cards when I was a committee man. The scoutmaster was Harry Warshawski. I have had many memorable and funny incidents with my good friends of 299. Here are a few. I visited California and saw Sherman in 1958. On my way down from LA to see him, I was doing 90 miles an hour and was stopped by a cop. Very innocently, I proclaimed to the cop that the speed limit was prima facie, which is reasonable and proper. He proclaimed yes, and I determined what is reasonable and proper here. He didn't give me a ticket, but scared the heck out of me. I really had my plane ticket, and I showed him the plane ticket, and I said I was leaving, and he really believed that I was dumb, I guess. Harvey Bernstein and I went to Tamerman for a few days. On the way home in his blue Dodge convertible, the fuel filter clogged, and we kept stalling. We found an open store, and the owner said we could go to a barn in the back and see if we could find anything which would help. We did, a tube from an old enema bag, which we used to bypass the fuel filter. It worked, but when we got home, we found the tube swollen and ready to burst. We were very lucky that it didn't burst during the trip, which would have caused a fire. After our first reunion in 1982, Sherman and his ex-wife Linda joined us on a camera safari to Kenya. Our 2 sons also went along. It was the best vacation trip of our lives. We took about 600 pictures of the animals. It was interesting. For example, I wanted to photograph a hippo on the land. We hired an old wooden boat with a guide. He honored my request but seemed a little perplexed. After I got the shot, the hippo took off after us. I have many photos of the hippo chasing our little boat as we backed away from him. I recently found the receipt for the boat hire. I'll pass it around, but I'll read you part 2. It says, further, if the boat is not returned by 1800 hours, a search party will be sent out, and that the full cost of this will be at the expense of the undersigned. But I didn't really read this before we did it. I guess we were lucky. Also, Sherman, thank you for playing surrogate parents by going on the balloon safari with our 2 sons. My fear of heights prevented me from going, and Dottie kept me company. We have traveled a bit and hope to do a lot more, God willing. In the future, I hope to do some of the following. Restore my classic Mercedes convertible. Take a trip around the world. If anybody here would like to join us, call me. I'm serious. We really want to do it. I won't take up any more time for the rest. I cherish the scouting friends I have made and would like to thank Lester for giving me something to look forward to after my 1984 bypass surgery by inviting us to his son's bar mitzvah. Les isn't here, but I have already read this to him. Also, Herb visited me a lot, almost daily, after my surgeries in 2004 and really gave me hope. I will be eternally grateful. Also, thanks to Herb, Jay, and Patricia for visiting me in the nursing home and taking me out to lunch. At the time, it was a big step for me. Also, thanks to everyone who called me in the hospital and nursing home. I'd like to mention some of our scouting friends who have passed on. Sheldon Green, who we used to call Traffic Light. He had red hair. Right name was green. Yeah. Victor Merston, Marty Scheiken, Arnie Bernstein, Mr. Porras, Sam Friedman, who spoke eloquently at our first reunion, and Phil Schneider. I am sure that there are others, but I have included only those I am sure of. Also, a special thanks to Jay Freeman, who spent a lot of time planning this reunion. Dottie and I spent a little time in this effort when we went with Jay to the old neighborhood, and then came here to pick the restaurant. I'll pass around these 3 pictures that we took that day. Picture 1 is Jay and I standing by a jerk center. I don't know what that means, but that's okay. The second picture is of Herb's house, where we met in the basement. And the third picture is of PS 219, where most of us went to school. In closing, Dottie and I are moving our winter home from Florida to Las Vegas. We hope you can visit us there. There are some great things to do in and near Vegas. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try, by the way, I'm Herb Schneider, and I'm going to try and keep it down within the 5 minutes, and I'm going to follow this, Okay, number 1, personal lives, marriages. When I graduated from City College with an engineering degree, mechanical engineering, I went as a full-time student to the University of Connecticut. And at that time, I also got married and ended up living in Connecticut for about 5 years. Got my master's degree there and also worked at Pratt & Whitney on jet engines. Both my wife and I were from the New York area, and although Connecticut was really beautiful, we really felt that we missed family. And we felt a strong desire to come back to the New York area, which we did. I worked at Grumman, and Sheila, my wife at that time, was a teacher. She taught biology and earth science. I was with Grumman until 1990 when I retired. I worked on many very interesting projects. The first one that I was on was the Apollo project, the lunar module. I was involved in the thermodynamic, my specialty is thermodynamics, and I was involved in the environmental control system of the lunar module. And I would go down to Cape Kennedy prior to each flight for checkout of the vehicle, met all of the astronauts at that time, and then would be down in Houston during the actual flights as part of flight control. That was one of the highlights of my career. It was very challenging. After that, I was on in energy systems, worked on solar energy and windmills. This was back during the 70s when we had the long gas lines, our first energy crisis. After that, I worked on space station and various aircraft. My wife passed away in 1977, and I have 2 children. A girl who's now, Terry, who's now 42, 43. She has 2 children, 2 girls, 11 and 7, named Sheila and Hannah. My daughter has taught English. She's an English teacher, although now she's a full-time mother. I have a son who's now about 38, and he's a physician and also on Long Island. I'm really fortunate that both my children have stayed in the Long Island area. And he has twins, a boy and a girl, Philip and Rebecca, and they're 8 years old. Since they do live so close, I'm really fortunate in that I get to see them, just about every week I'm over there. Leisure time. I mentioned that I've been retired since 1990, and I don't know what I do with my time, but I'm just so busy, I don't know how I ever had time to work. I really enjoy retirement. I'm not sure what I've learned about life. other than to cherish it. I think that's the most important thing. One of the things here is, what was I doing on the morning of 9/11? And that stays in my mind because I was getting ready to go to your mother's funeral. And as I was getting ready to go, and the news came that the bridges were closed, and no need to elaborate on what happened after that. My future plans are to enjoy my children, my grandchildren, to try and stay healthy, and to try and stay out of the hospital so Sherman doesn't have to come and visit me.
Okay. Hi everybody, Sherman Zell. As you all know, I went to Brooklyn Technical High School with a bunch of you, and we all graduated and went on different directions. I went to San Diego, California, then moved up the coast slowly to Santa Maria, and then slowly up to the Bay Area, and I stayed in the Bay Area ever since. And along that way, being a typical California guy, I collected wives and got rid of wives until finally